arrangements in place, we should have the expectation that they will remain in place for at least 6 months. If the health situation changes and enables us to reconsider those arrangements, then that can be reconsidered. But I wouldn't want anyone to get the impression that these arrangements are things that will be in place for a couple of weeks or a month and then will be discarded and everything will be okay. These are very significant measures, and they are done regrettably because it will mean for many people that the places at which they go to work, they will be unable to do that in the way they were before. And it makes it even more important, the measures I announced earlier today, to provide support to those individuals who may be affected by these changes. This is what I mean. When we all don't do the right thing, then it has real implications for others. Stage 1 would see that in enclosed spaces for gatherings in the following facilities to be closed as of midday tomorrow. Registered and licensed clubs. Licensed premises in hotels and pubs. So that is in the licensed area, not in the accommodation area, but in the venues that sit within those hotels where there are licensed gatherings and gatherings that will also be closed.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Off licence parts of those premises for bottle shops, that particularly applies in places like Tasmania. In Queensland, I understand, they will be excluded from these arrangements. They work like any other retail premises. They are not a place of people gathering in an off-licensed bottle shop. Entertainment venues and cinemas, casinos and nightclubs. Restaurants and cafes will be restricted to takeaway only. Indoor sporting venues. Places of worship.
No masjid.
Enclosed spaces for funerals and things of that nature will have to follow the strict 4 square metre rule, which will be enforced. Home deliveries, takeaways, all of these things will continue, as I know many of these catering businesses are already adjusting their business models in anticipation of things that they believe would potentially take place. The fact that we're having to do that at this point, I've gone into the reasons why. And I am deeply regretful that those workers and those business owners who will be impacted by this decision will suffer the economic hardship that undoubtedly they will now have to face. That is a very, very regretful decision, but a necessary one in the view of the Premiers and Chief Ministers and myself to ensure that we can control the spread of this virus. This should highlight to all Australians how serious this is and how hard we all have to work together to get this right. In remote communities, there will be specific rules that will be defined by the Chief Ministers, Premiers in those communities, and they'll be worked through tomorrow morning. The Premiers and Chief Ministers, together myself, will be considering stage 2 potential restrictions in this area. But what we first want to see is we want to see the public respond to these very serious measures. We're dealing with the principal places of social gathering, where we saw people coming together on the weekend. If we don't get on top of that, then we look at a much more difficult health scenario into the future. Now, on the issue of schools, children should go to school tomorrow. There's no change to the medical expert advice in relation from the AHPPC panel, the medical expert panel from the states and territories, in their advice to the National Cabinet in relation to the health advice. That said, I also want to thank all the teachers and all those working in our schools who've been doing that under a lot of pressure. The principals and the deputy principals, the teachers aides, all of those have been working in the school communities under a lot of stress and strain as this debate has raged on. Health advice has been clear and they've remained open. And this is important because I want to stress this. I don't want to see our children lose an entire year of their education. That's what we're talking about here. This is very serious. If you're a 4-year-old child at preschool, you don't get your 4-year-old year back. You only get it once. Early childhood education is incredibly important, as is all the years of school education. And we want to ensure keeping Australia running means ensuring we can keep up to the mark with our children's education as best as we can. And where there's health advice which says you can get to school and you can be taught, then it's important that we do that for as long as possible, except where health circumstances would change that arrangement. What we will be doing, though, is allowing parents to the end of this year's school term to be able to keep their children home where they choose to. But for all of those parents who wish to send their children to school for an education at the school, those schools will remain open. In addition, schools will seek to provide learning at home in a distance learning framework, but you cannot be assured that that will come into place immediately. That will take some arrangements from those schools, particularly the public schools.
Honey,
in many
the whole